What's up, rockers? Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast, where we geek out on all things rock and roll. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Leave us your likes and comments. You can also leave likes and comments on our Facebook page. Follow us on iTunes, Spotify, and Instagram at talklouder_podcast. And of course, always on our website, talklouderpodcast.com. I'm Metal Dave, along with my co-host, Jason McMaster. And today we have Stevie D, guitarist for Buckcherry, and we've been wanting to get him on the show for quite some time. I saw them play outside of Austin about a month ago, and I hit him up to be on the podcast, and he's still on the road, but was kind enough to make some time for us today before soundcheck. I believe he's in Florida today. So great conversation with Stevie, such a nice guy. And,
I think we made him late for soundcheck. Sorry, Stevie.
Yeah. Well,
sorry about that.
Yeah, it's probably the last podcast he'll do with us.
Oh, maybe not. I mean,
I think he was actually offering to be a co-host at the end of the tour.
Well, there for a second, as if, I mean, the more the merrier. I'm totally down, but like we're making money doing this, you know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if you have idle hands, we can keep you out of trouble, but we can't give you a paycheck. So.
Right. I'm still waiting for my paycheck.
Yeah,
so.
Me too. It ain't happening. Yeah, it ain't happening. This is a passion piece.
Absolutely. Yeah. And anyway, Stevie D, one of the hardest working guys in rock and roll, in one of the hardest touring bands in rock and roll. Buckcherry seems to be out constantly. Of course, much like everybody else, they had some downtime during the pandemic, but they've been hitting it hard again. And prior to the pandemic, I don't know if those guys even went home for Christmas. I mean, they were
as people are going to hear in the interview. You know, my comments after meeting Stevie and just hearing his story and how it all went. You know, how it kind of came together with his involvement in the band. It's like, you know, Buckcherry is busy.
Yeah,
they stay busy. Even when they're not busy, they're busy. You know, they're thinking of the next thing. It reminds me of, you know, just look at the Voivod discography. You're looking at the release years, and it's like there's no downtime.
Right.
At all. So
yeah. Album tour. And Buckcherry's been doing it since, 20 some years now.
Yeah.
The album came out in 99. And
yep.
Stevie's been with the band since the 15 album in 2005. He and Josh actually go back farther than their partnership in Buckcherry. They were friends in Hollywood in the early 90s. Stevie shares a little bit about that. And it's kind of funny. Unfortunately, it all worked out for the best. But
it's dangerous, but it's also funny. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's funny because it all worked out. But yeah. But anyway, happy to have him on the show today. Nice of him to take some time off while he's on tour, getting ready for soundcheck. And so, let's get to it. Stevie D from Buckcherry here on the Talk Louder podcast. You're out touring Hellbound, your latest album, and I don't know, is it just me, or there seems to be a lot more excitement around Hellbound maybe than the previous couple of records? And I don't know if that's just because of the pandemic and people were starving for something or whatever, but I feel like there's a lot of talk and buzz around the record online, et cetera. Do you get that perception from where you are?
It's maybe it's hard to tell, you know. I'm in the eye of the storm.
Sure.
So, and every record cycle, there seems to be a big push, you know. We're with a different label. There's different circumstances like the pandemic and people haven't gotten live shows, and maybe it's timing that a year went by, not a lot of releases happened because a lot of people don't like to release albums without being able to tour.
Sure.
That's what we were doing. So we waited till there was some sort of green light with touring, and then there was this big push from Earache, our label, and Roundhill in the States. Hang on one second, guys. I need you to. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, we're getting ready to jump this ship and get onto Shiprock. So everyone's getting all their stuff together.
Monsters.
You know, it's the end of the run here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Monsters of Rock. Yeah.
Monsters of Rock.
Because we've done both.
But yeah, I mean, yes.
Yep.
Yes. But yeah, back to your question. It was well received. So there was a lot of, we spent a lot of time, which we normally don't get, writing this record. So we had all of 2020, and we spent a good amount of time writing with Marty Fredrickson, who's got a great track record. And we connected well with him. So we worked with him in the past, and it was pretty effortless. So the end result was we had 30 some odd songs to pick from, and the result was a more cohesive, consistent album, rock and roll album. You know, we didn't set out to, we didn't set out to achieve anything more than just a great rock and roll album with great songs.
Amen to that. That says a lot. That right there makes me want to buy it. That makes me want to go look for it. It makes me want to watch the videos when you put it that way, because that's what's missing. It's like a great rock and roll record is actually the missing link, especially these days. So the fact that you had 30 tunes in the well to look at and choose from in order to sort of sculpt your goal, I think that's great. Good things are coming out of lockdown and pandemic, or do you think it's a double-edged sword?
I think for us, the silver lining was that we got to be with our families, you know, for a long, you know, like we toured a lot in 2019, 2018. And I remember being overseas, just wanting to be home with my boy. I'm a single dad, and careful what you wish for, because I got to spend every minute of 2020 and a lot of 2021 with that boy. I mean, you know, I loved it. So we also got to spend a lot of time working on our songwriting, like Josh and I working on our songwriting language, and that got fine tuned. And like I said, the benefit of all that is just, you know, better music for us, you know. So a good album, a better family, you know, a happy family. So it's all good. It was good. When we came out of the gate, the last half of 2021, the crowds were insane. You know, it was a lot of them were sold out, and there were lines down the block, and people just, even with, you know, when we were getting going there, you know, they'd have everything separate, you know, people separated in pods, and they were still singing at the top of their lungs. But that was great. And then the variants started hitting, and people started getting scared. So that started affecting our audience too. So like the show would be sold out, but 75% would only show up, or 50% would show up because they didn't want to get sick, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where we're at now. And then we're also, we're looking at Monsters of Rock, where a lot of people are trying to dump their sell their cabins because they don't want to get sick, you know, or so even though, you know, whatever information is out there about Omicron, you know, people still don't want to get sick. So, which I understand.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's as fair as anything. there's been quite a few bands drop out because of maybe fear of being sick, or they have to come through customs too many times,
Sure.
and in fear of testing. You have to test every time you go through a customs, and one positive sends the whole crew home. So that's another playing card. That's the death card, you know.
It's tough. We have to do a lot of testing for. We're going to be going on the road with Alice Cooper right after that. Mm-hmm. So we're just trying to get across the finish line, and be as careful as we can.
That turned into a game now. Yeah.
So you talked a minute ago about the songwriting language between you and Josh. You and Josh have known each other for a long time. I think your friendship even predates you joining Buckcherry. So tell me, and especially now that you guys are basically the only two left out of that core group that did the 15 album. So since from that time to today, you and Josh have been the primary songwriters. Is there ever a time when you guys are butt heads creatively because you feel so strongly about a verse or a chorus? Or can you tell me a story about...
It's a good question.
I mean, just like our offstage relationship or on stage, I liken it to maybe the way brothers interact. We've known each other a long time, since the early 90s when we were in Hollywood, and we'll argue about. We can argue about anything, No, he's in the back there. But it doesn't get heated. Like, this is the way I want it, because at the end of the day, I don't know, back in in 2005, when they were picking singles and they picked Crazy Bitch to be the first single, I was like, I don't know. Is that a good choice? I don't know what's going to hit, what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was a massive single. So, what I like to do is just put my best foot forward, and if it takes off, great. If it doesn't, I don't fight for things that, I'm not quite, 100% sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
keep the peace, choose your battles. You mentioned you're getting ready to go out with Alice Cooper, and in the past you've been out with Motley Crue, AC/DC. And at the beginning of this episode, we have a photo montage, and for a couple of the photos that we have of you, one of them is you with Eddie Van Halen, and another is you with Angus Young. Tell me about those two occasions and how those photos came about. Any aspiring young rock kid's got to freak out when you finally get to meet someone of that stature.
I've met a lot of people. Being in Buckcherry has afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of people. And, some of them are cool. Some of them aren't, some of them, at the end of the day, they're all just dudes,
Sure.
But when you meet somebody like Eddie Van Halen, that has had such an effect on your, musical career. It was mind blowing. I was floored. I saw him down the hall, and I was speechless. I was like that little girl weeping in the corner, seeing Paul McCartney. I was like, like, that's fucking Eddie Van Halen. Oh my god! But
that's a common reaction. I would vote that would happen to pretty much anyone. It would happen to me. I know that. Yeah.
So how did that come about? Where was that photo?
For a guitar player, especially.
Yeah.
Well, we were in Australia, and we were doing a festival. They were headlining. We were opening, and this was after we had played. And I went into the hallway. I just happened to be talking with Steven Tyler a moment before, and then I saw him, and he walked up. I can't remember what happened, but he was vaping. Yeah. And I was like, "Hey, Eddie," and he goes, "Hey, what's going on?" Like we had already met before. I was like, "Oh, nothing, just hanging out." So you're vaping now? Is that what's going on? And he goes, "Yeah, man, you want to try?" He's like, "I can't smoke anymore." He goes, "You want to check it out?" And I was like, "Oh God, okay." And so I hit his vape. And I don't know. We had talked about, some guitar stuff, his amps, and he was holding his guitar because he was just warming up in the hallway, and then that was basically it. I asked him for a selfie, and he goes, "Sure," So
nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It was pretty quick, but the Angus Young meeting, we were at Third Encore, and in North Hollywood, California. And I had a storage locker there, and AC/DC was rehearsing there. They rented out the whole building, and my friend Doug, the manager there, was like, he knows I'm a huge, like, Angus is like the pinnacle for me, and he's like, Angus is playing right there. Or no, he's sitting right there. He's reading a book, smoking cigarettes. I was like, okay, all right, just be cool. Just be cool. Just be cool. Doug, can you get me, can I meet him? And he goes, yeah, he's super cool. I went over there and we talked. He's a well-read gentleman. He was drinking tea, and I just asked him, I have an SG in my locker. Would you sign it? He goes, sure. So went over there and he signed it. We took a picture.
Wow. Man.
Super cool dude.
That's a couple of good days right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to know where your T-shirt is that says "I vaped with Eddie Van Halen."
Yeah, I know it's so strange, but I was blown. The whole thing both meetings went into slow motion. If you met people that you're just like, my heart was like beating, I don't know, that fight or flight moment. Yeah,
in the words of Bon Scott, suspended animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah,
it's exactly that.
So, wow. Stevie, you and Josh go back, as you said, to the early '90s as friends in Hollywood. And my understanding is those are some pretty wild days for you guys, and to put it mildly. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about how you guys met as friends, and then lead us up to the point. I want to know how you met as friends, and then a few years later, what was his sales pitch to you to get you to join Buckcherry?
All right.
This is another good question, Dave.
We both worked at a vintage clothes store called Aardvarks. It was in Venice, California. And we had a manager there that we didn't like. And we were fed up working for her. And so what we did, that's where we met. And one of the story, a story that how we left that place is we both said, our best thinking told us, why don't we fucking quit this place? We'll walk out right now. We'll take our last check and we'll buy a sheet of acid. And what we'll do is we'll buy it at pennies on the dollar, and we'll turn around and sell them for $3 a piece. And we will become the acid kings of Los Angeles, And so that was our big idea, money making scheme. That we won't have to work anymore, and we'll just we'll be these big drug kingpins in Hollywood. Fast forward 2 weeks later, there was no more acid because we were so broke. We would take a half hit of acid. By the way, if you're a young person watching this is not what not to do. Okay.
Got it.
But yeah, two weeks later, we had eaten all the acid because we were broke and couldn't afford beer and other consumables, So, yeah, that was just the beginning of our relationship. But
wow.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. It was a crazy time.
So then you guys aren't in bands together. You're in bands separately, and then he decides to reform Buckcherry. We lost your video, Steve.
Video. He's come here. He's
right.
Back. All good.
So
sorry. Here I am. Sorry.
It's all good.
So you're in separate bands. He decides to put Buckcherry back together after a hiatus following the first two records. How does he approach you about joining the band? And were you even still in Hollywood at that time? Or were you back in Chicago?
Yeah, no, I came back to Chicago. I came back to Hollywood after swearing I'd never go back there. I hated it. It was the gateway to hell for me. I got, from after living with Josh for a while, I kind of downwards spiraled into this drug and alcohol abyss. Much like a lot of people do there. Hollywood chews up a lot of people. Anyway, I was in Hollywood. I went back. I jammed with this band. I was a hired gun of sorts for different labels. So I played with American Pearl. I played with this band on Arista called Automatic Black. And we lost that deal. And I got a call from Josh. And he said, I just lost my tour manager. Can you meet me in Texas? So I go to Texas, start tour managing and kind of roading, for him. And then he said, their guitar player falls out. So I end up being the guitar player for his solo band during that Buckcherry hiatus.
Right. Okay.
Fast forward, that band gets dropped. And we both go back to Hollywood. And, meanwhile, I'm kind of this guy. I'm the guy that's still friends with Keith, and I'm still friends with Josh. So, I'm talking to them, and I'd be like, Josh, I was talking to Keith today. He says hello, and he's like, huh, okay, tell him I said hello. And I go back to Keith. Hey, Josh said hello. And he was like, oh, really? Okay. Oh, how's he doing? I'm like, he's good. I go back to Josh. He asked how you're doing. He's like, oh, really? So that started a dialogue between the two. And then I think what happened was they were thinking about doing a reunion show at the Key Club. And then my phone rang one day, and it was Keith. He was like, hey, dude, we're going to do a reunion show. You want to do this? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. I was a huge Buckcherry fan,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how that all started.
And then you guys put together the 15 album, and from what I understand, you couldn't get a deal to save your life. It almost never even came out. In fact, I think it was only released in Japan initially, right? And then it went on. Yeah, so tell me about that, because that was basically dead in the water, and then it turned into this double platinum blockbuster success.
Yeah, double platinum after 20 years.
Sure, yeah, but take it.
If if I can recall how it all happened, I remember Keith saying at rehearsal, we're going to start writing and put the band back together and make a go of it. If you're into it, bring your rent on Tuesday. And, and everyone was like, oh, what else are we going to do? I mean, I think all of us, it was kind of the last house on the block.
Yeah.
Jimmy had just gotten out of prison.
Yeah.
Xavier was working on bikes in Texas. I was washing RVs and jet skis in the desert. So it's like a no-brainer. Like, do you want to rock or do you want to be a janitor? I was like, okay, yeah, I'll bring my rent on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, the janitoring is going to wait for you anyway. So
yeah, it'll always be there.
Yeah.
So what did I have to lose? So, but yeah, I remember Katie McNeil, which is an important piece of the puzzle. She really believed in this, and she worked over with Alan Kovac at 11-7.
Yeah.
And she started managing us, and she started hustling. We put some demos together, and if I'm not mistaken, everyone passed on it like twice.
Yeah.
And then Alan Kovac went to Japan and got the funding to release it on 11-7 Records. It was like going to be a Japanese release, but he also put it out in the States on 11-7.
Yeah.
So, but that's where that's the whole catalyst, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But it was a whirlwind right after that. It took off pretty quickly after that. There was this old thing called MySpace, and it was a social media platform, and that's when terms like viral video started being thrown around. And
right.
we released a video on, actually we just put the song on MySpace. And if I remember correctly, I remember looking at it, and we had just posted it, and it was going up by the tens of thousands. I was like, this thing might be brilliant. Like, it's going, like, a lot of people are watching this. And it had, within a week, or it had hundreds of thousands. And I don't know, after a few months, it had millions, So.
Yeah. Yeah. Start of something huge for sure. You mentioned, speaking of that album and the lineup, you mentioned Keith and Jimmy and Xavier. I think a lot of people got attached to that lineup of the band because the success of 15. And you as a guitar player having to partner with Keith, I'm sure that was an integral part of your working relationship and songwriting and that sort of thing. So as gently as you can you tell us why each of those guys left or quit or got fired or whatever? Well,
they didn't. No one got fired. They left. It's tough to say because we haven't talked since.
Yeah.
Well, I've talked to Xavier, but I think Keith he was tired of the road. Mm-hmm. It's no secret that we had toured relentlessly for more than 10 years straight, and we were never home. And at this point, he had a son, has a son, and I get it, and we were told at this point in time to stop touring. It was a case of diminishing returns for us, that we had toured so much that we're burning out audiences and less people were coming as the years went on.
Yeah.
So, and that's, it's really frustrating and it's disheartening. And for someone, we saw a lot of success, and to see that happening, I get it. like, and at the point of, we had taken the break, and we were like, I think after 6 months, we had agreed to take a 6-month break. And at the end of that 6 months, Josh wanted to start working.
Yeah.
And I was, because of lifestyle, like I needed to start working again too, So that's when it splintered. I think Keith still wanted to stay home, and Josh wanted to start working. So that's where kind of all of that happened.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to say this, and we know that you have to go.
Oh, sorry.
I'm very impressed with how busy the band, just under the banner Buckcherry, has been able to stay together at pretty much at fucking any cost. And it's impressive because not a lot of bands can do that. They just do fly-in dates, and they don't get on a bus, and they don't work a product or anything. And that banner, Buckcherry, has always done that. So with all of the sort of like rocks being thrown at you, a rock would be this, like, well, you got to go home for a while because you've burned out your markets. Something like that. That's huge. And it's kind of, you take a hit. You try not to take it personally, but go home. Fuck this. What? Go home. I don't want to go home. But you look at paperwork, and you do numbers, and you're like, oh, the fuck, I hate it when they're right. So
it's scary. It's scary when it's your main source of income. Records. It's no secret that records aren't selling anymore. Rock records, anyway.
Yeah.
We're in a day and age of streaming. So.
Don't get me started on Spotify. Different episode.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's road. The road is the only place where it makes sense for us. Merch and ticket sales.
Yeah.
So and we're after this record cycle, we have to go away for a little while again too. So. Maybe you need a partner at your podcast. I don't know.
Sure. Is it John?
Right.
Absolutely.
So, anyway,
real quick, do you still have the ritual of jamming Metallica's "Seek and Destroy" on the tour bus before you take the stage?
Oh, it was Slipknot. It was Metallica. Now it's. Gosh, we've gone through even disco phases. You know what I mean? Like, what did we listen to last night? Actually, we watched Kelly do this bluegrass. It's different all the time now.
Yeah.
It's changed a lot through the years.
I just remember being on the bus at one time when you did. This is before you were in the band, by the way. The guys let me hang out and be part of the pre-game ritual of playing air guitar to Metallica "Seek and Destroy," and it was a blast. And then I noticed the last time I saw you just a month ago, you had that song playing over the PA before you went on. So I was thinking to myself, they still have that as music, take the stage music. Yeah.
Yeah. We put together that walk-on music, me and Kelly. It's like everything from Sex Pistols, Motorhead, Metallica, to kind of get the old rock and roll spirit up.
Sure. Yeah. Stevie, we're going to let you go in just a second. I wanted to ask you, we do a segment called How'd You Get Hooked on Rock and Roll? So tell me, what was the first album or the first band you saw on TV or the first concert you went to, or what was the moment where you decided, I want to do that for a living?
That's easy. The moment I decided I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. Like I went to Ozzy Osbourne. It was at Poplar Creek, just outside of Chicago. That's the amphitheater we saw concerts at. It was Ozzy Osbourne, Def Leppard. I was 15 or 16, and it was Randy Rhoads' guitar solo.
Yeah,
I was like, and that was the point where I was woodshedding at home. I had a guitar teacher, teaching me Randy Rhoads licks, and when I saw him do that, and what he shared with the audience, and what they shared back, I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you, Ozzy. Thank you, Randy Rhoads.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Stevie, for joining us today. I think we need to let him go
Dave.
get the sound check. On behalf of my co-host, Jason McMaster, I'm Metal Dave Glessner, along with our special guest today, Stevie D from Buckcherry. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Talk Louder podcast.
Super nice guy.
Yeah, he
had
is.
Nothing to go on. No idea. I don't know any history about him, but I got to say, super nice, obviously talented, and excellent interview with him. That was awesome of him to hang out with us
he's a sweetheart.
from the road. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Buckcherry about a month ago in Kyle, right outside of Austin, and I got to talking to Stevie and mentioned the podcast. Of course, we've had Billy Rowe, the other guitarist in Buckcherry, on the show already. And, I just have a long history with the Buckcherry guys, especially now Josh and Stevie being the two longest running members of the band. And I've known Billy for a long, long time as well. So he mentioned the podcast, and I told him we wanted to have him on. And he was kind enough to make it happen. And as you said, he's on the road right now. And as he said, he's off to sound check. So he squeezed us in, and we appreciate that.
Definitely. Really cool that we're getting, sometimes two at the same time, sometimes two separate. I'll take it either way. With the Legs Diamond, we had two on at once, and then we've had Frank and Eddie.
Yeah.
And then we've also had Frank on his own. So, I think that just hearing, the person's story and how they're seeing it, even though it's related to what's happening to the group of people that they're, partners with and on the road with and sharing every moment with, and like that, it gives a, I don't know if it's something that people just who listen to us or who are even reading a Rolling Stone article about a person or a group or a record or anything. I don't think that they understand you get out of bed, you put your socks on, you don't forget your pants, and you start your day just like anything else, but when rock and roll is your job. And then I love it how they're saying, well, I got to spend time with my son. It's like, that's important. And it seems like it's not the first thing that like fans will think about.
Sure.
They want you to look and feel and sound exactly how you did 20 years ago when the record that they fell in love with came out.
Right.
And then they realize, oh shit, they're a person. And that's what I love. One more thing I love about doing a podcast and getting to hang out with people that you and I don't really know personally, and just seeing them reflect. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, and some of these people, their personality is just so genuine, and I think that's what we got with Stevie today. You just feel the human connection. He talks about having his, going home to his son, and then the ups and downs of being on the road, and he's just very honest about the realities of it. And I agree that sort of peels away this layer and gets beyond the persona that you see on stage, which is just high energy and 24/7 go go go.